WWE Chief Content Officer Triple H confirms that War Games are coming to Survivor Series in November. Plus, we have an update on the mystery White Rabbit song playing before SmackDown, during WWE live events, and possibly in the future. Also, an update on plans changing for Liv Morgan on SmackDown. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE, and the sweeping changes made by Triple H are continuing. We've seen several names being brought back to the company. We've seen words being unbanned by the cerebral assassin, but now we're also seeing one of the most famous matches in pro wrestling history make its WWE main roster debut. Where's William Regal when you need him to say War Games? Because War Games are coming to Survivor Series, of course. War Games has been a staple of NXT in recent years under the watch of Triple H, but Vince McMahon previously wasn't a fan of the match made famous by WCW, his fierce rival Jim Crockett Promotions. But now War Games is indeed coming to Survivor Series. It's just the latest change, a popular one by Triple H now that he has gained control over WWE creative and talent relations and just general content. War Games is coming indeed to Survivor Series. Triple H spoke with The Ringer and announced today that WWE Survivor Series will feature not one but two War Games matches. This is what the cerebral assassin had to say, quote, "We'll have a men's War Games match and a women's War Games match. The tradition of Survivor Series has ebbed and flowed and changed slightly over time, but this will be similar to that. This will not be Raw versus SmackDown. It will be much more storyline driven. I still look at it as a traditional component to Survivor Series in there because it's large teams of people competing. We just upped the ante a little bit with War Games and made it evolve," Triple H said. Now, Survivor Series is scheduled for Saturday, November 26th at the TD, easy for me to say, Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Of course, Triple H brought War Games to NXT in 2017, and the event became an annual tradition for the brand during Survivor Series weekend. So this isn't the first time that War Games has been associated with Survivor Series weekend, but it is the first time that War Games will be seen at Survivor Series because the WWE main roster has never utilized the War Games concept, which originally it was created in 1987 from Dusty Rhodes in Jim Crockett Promotions. Now, in recent years, WWE Survivor Series has been about brand supremacy, with Raw and SmackDown superstars squaring off in elimination and champion versus champion matches, but it appears this year that will not be the case. And frankly, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think the Survivor Series Raw versus SmackDown concept had become tired and drawn out. It was good the first time they did it, which was 2016, Raw versus SmackDown. They had done Raw versus SmackDown stuff in the past at Survivor Series, I believe in 2005, when they had the main event, which was Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, and they had a couple of matches on the show that were kind of Raw versus SmackDown stuff. But starting in 2016, with the return of the brand split, with the return of the brand extension, Raw versus SmackDown, they brought that element of it to Survivor Series. They had bragging rights in the past, which was a pay-per-view, which was Raw versus SmackDown, but they moved it to Survivor Series. And for that year, it was fine. And maybe for the year after, maybe the year after that, it was okay. But it had become tired. And I've been saying this in recent weeks as well here on the channel. How can you do Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series when there isn't really a Raw versus SmackDown to do? The brand extension at this point is nothingness. It means really nothing. Yes, superstars are assigned to certain brands, but just in the last couple of weeks, we've seen people from Raw appear on SmackDown. We've seen people from SmackDown appear on Raw. We've seen people that are going to be primarily based on SmackDown return to WWE on Raw, like Braun Strowman. It would appear that Braun Strowman is going to be situated on SmackDown, but he returned on Raw. The brand split isn't really a thing, and maybe, just maybe, it will become a thing once again whenever there's a draft later this year, or when there's going to be after WrestleMania season or something like that. So going into Survivor Series, I kept saying to myself, and I said it a couple of times here on the channel, how are they going to do that? And also importantly, if you're going to do champion versus champion matches, bit of a problem because a lot of the championships have been merged and are now undisputed and unified. You've got the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship is held by the same guy in Roman Reigns. The Tag Team Championships are held by the same tag team in the Usos. So what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And clearly, it's never really been a concern of Triple H because we're not going to do Raw versus SmackDown. We're going to do War Games instead. And as he mentioned, it's not going to be so much Raw versus SmackDown. It's going to be storyline focused. And clearly, look at who's in the bloodline right now. You've got Roman Reigns. You've got the Usos. You've got Solo Sikoa, and you've got Sami Zayn. That's 5 people right there. That is enough to do a War Games team. Now, possibly you could take a name off that and just be 4. It depends how you want to do it. Sometimes it's 4 names, sometimes it's 5 names, sometimes it's 3 names. They can be pretty light with what they want to do there. So who is it going to be against? Is it going to be the Bloodline versus, I don't know, WWE? Is it going to be the Bloodline versus Imperium? Is it going to be the Bloodline versus the Judgment Day? Is it going to be the Bloodline versus... It's going to be the Bloodline versus someone. We know that. As far as the women's side of things, logically right now, is there a faction of females in WWE? Of course, there just happens to be one that's just debuted in WWE, that being Damage Control, that being Bayley, that being Io Sky, that being Dakota Kai. Who could go up against those 3? Well, possibly you could have someone like Bianca Belair, who's feuding with that faction right now. And who are 2 other females that used to be a tag team that could be returning very soon? Well, I don't know. What about Sasha Banks and what about Naomi? Things are starting to line up. You're starting to see maybe a bit of a picture as to where Triple H is going with this War Games idea and where he's going to go going forward. Now, obviously as well, with War Games now being on the main roster, a lot of people are saying Cody Rhodes. Will Cody Rhodes be involved in War Games? Because, of course, his father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, actually created the match type. So it would be fantastic to see Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, eventually compete in a War Games match. Chances are it's too soon. It would appear still the timeline for the American Nightmare's return to WWE would possibly be January, possibly being in the Royal Rumble, possibly winning the Royal Rumble, possibly being the guy to defeat Roman Reigns for at least the WWE, or possibly both championships before a big, great reset in WWE spearheaded by Triple H. That's certainly a possibility. So I don't expect Cody Rhodes to appear in the War Games match. If he does, look, anything's possible. We don't know. You know, we've seen miraculous feats of recovery in WWE in the past. John Cena has been a great example of that. So I guess anything's possible, but as far as Cody Rhodes appearing in War Games, I don't know. But this is obviously clearly great news, and the reaction to it on social media has been, as you would expect, largely positive, and also in the WWE locker room and dressing room and backstage area, it's been largely positive. These are the changes that we've wanted to see to WWE for a long period of time. So many times over the last decade, 2 decades, things like this that felt somewhat outside of the box, felt somewhat different. It would be swatted away by Vince McMahon because he liked tradition, and also on top of that, he didn't like anything to do with WCW because we beat WCW, damn it. Why would we bring their ideas to us? Why would we do that? He hated all that kind of stuff. And this is what I was saying the other day about Halloween Havoc being an NXT Premium Live event. Bring it to the main roster. These concepts still have so much weight to them, and as an IP, they have so much quality and built-in history that people want to see them. So this is a great move by Triple H, and it's got a lot of people excited, myself excited, and maybe it's just another bit of a shot in the arm just at the time that WWE needed it once again. As we head into this full season of WWE, when you have football, the NFL returning, they're going to be going up against it every Monday night. As you head into Thanksgiving, you have War Games on the horizon for the first time on the main roster, and it's a big card to play for Triple H, but it's the right card to play right now, and we've got some big things on the horizon. WWE now, we've got Extreme Rules coming up, but then we have Crown Jewel, that big main event, Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul's already generating a ton of traction. Then we have War Games 2. It's all going on right now in WWE, and Triple H deserves a ton of credit for that. Now, from one story to a really interesting one, the White Rabbit tease. Now, you might be saying, oh, what on earth are you on about? The White Rabbit tease. This has taken social media by storm over the last 72 hours or so. If you've recently attended a taping of Friday Night SmackDown or a live event in the last couple of days, you would have heard the song White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane play throughout the arena, and clips of this have spread like wildfire on social media. Now, the use of the song during the WWE events has left many fans wondering just who the song could be for, as the track has been accompanied by a glaring red light, which you can see on the screen right there, glooming over the entire arena. Now, this has led to a lot of fans speculating that the song and the lighting could be used or is being used as a setup of the return of former WWE Universal Champion Bray Wyatt, specifically his alter ego, The Fiend. Now, of course, Wyatt was shockingly released by WWE last year, but Triple H did recently tease his return during an interview with Ariel Helwani of BT Sport, stating that he's one of the most creative minds in the business. Of course, WWE's latest teases are reminiscent of Wyatt's previous presentation. Under that Fiend gimmick, what did we see? We saw the red light of doom, and this is kind of very similar to those red lights. So it could signify at least the beginning stages of a resurrection of that character. What makes this theory, though, a little bit more interesting, that it could be planting the seeds for a Fiend's return, is that during one of the last episodes of the Firefly Funhouse, Wyatt portrayed the Mad Hatter as he and Alexa Bliss and the members of the Funhouse did a spoof of the Tea Party scene from Alice in Wonderland. Now, why am I bringing all that up, you may ask? Well, as Lauder points out, the lyrics to White Rabbit were inspired by the story of Alice in Wonderland, so that does add up. But that's not the only theory that it could possibly be about. Some people are leading this to say it could have something to do with former NXT champion Karrion Kross, who of course now is back in the fold in WWE and feuding with Drew McIntyre. He has even teased himself that this could be in reference to him on social media. Kross used to be known as the White Rabbit during his time in Lucha Underground, with fans wondering if the song means he will be bringing that gimmick to WWE. Kross took to Twitter to respond to a fan who had that theory, simply sharing images of a white rabbit and a hole to represent the ongoing going underground, alongside a question mark, and then the classic hourglass, which is part of his character, to go alongside the TikTok catchphrase that he uses. This has been taken as him teasing he could be the man behind the song being used, with Kross currently a member of SmackDown, where indeed that song was used this past Friday night during a commercial break. You know what? It's a really fascinating one. Of course, everyone loves a mystery. Everyone loves a mystery, and I don't know if there's anything in it. I don't know. And this is the great thing about it, it must be said, that if all of this is the beginning stages of a tease of Bray Wyatt's return, it might be one of the most elaborate and well thought out WWE sort of returns and teases that I've ever seen, because this hasn't been used on television. This was used during a commercial break on SmackDown. This was used at a live event this past weekend. One of the videos making the rounds on social media was before people were even inside the arena at the live event. It was someone filming it up in the rafters, and they played the song and they got the lights going to the red lights. And if this was all with the mindset of people in the arenas are going to be filming, it's going to take social media by storm, we want to get social media talking first, and then we're going to gradually more and more implement it into the show, then that's the kind of stuff I love. Chris Jericho has done it a couple of times. A couple of comebacks he had when it came to, I think it was 2007 and the 2012 comeback he had. It all started off by really, really, really subtle teases. I think back to the 2012 one when it would say like, "Oh, number one trend in the world, it's WWE," or when it said presented in WWE HD, that would just change to go to this YouTube page. And if you went to this YouTube page, you got these cryptic vignettes, and eventually it built to more and more and more and more. And they never acknowledged it on television the whole time. It just built. It just built. It just built. This could be something similar to that. If it involves Bray Wyatt, it could be something similar to that, whereby they're not going to put it on television for the next week or 2 weeks, but more and more people are talking about it. They're talking about it, and it's the beginning stages of the resurrection, if you will, of the Fiend, and eventually it builds to more. It happens on television. They don't reference it. It happens more on television. They still don't talk about it, and eventually he comes back. If they do that, it could be one of the most elaborate and, as I mentioned, greatest comebacks ever, because that's storytelling. It's getting people talking. And if they do that, that would be fantastic. Now, again, I don't know if that's really the direction they're going in. To me, it makes more sense that it would be Karrion Kross. The song's called The White Rabbit. He went by that name in Lucha Underground. A lot of the time with pro wrestling, the most simple explanation is actually closer to reality. And the most simple explanation is that it has something to do with Karrion Kross. Now, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's nothing." Why are people reading into it? Because it's bizarre. If this was just to get the crowd pumped up, I don't see the logic behind that. I just, there's something in it. We just don't know. Again, my hope is that it is a Bray Wyatt thing, not because I'm the biggest Bray Wyatt fan. I am quite a big fan of his work, and I did love the Fiend character. But the reason why I hope it's him, because I just think that the way that they would be going around teasing his return by not putting it on television, I think is genius. I think it's pure manipulation of social media, which is so smart. So keep an eye out for that. That's a really interesting story, and it's got a lot of people's attention, and it's really, really interesting. Finally, Liv Morgan, of course, is the SmackDown Women's Champion. And we have an update when it comes to her future. Now, Shotzi, of course, officially turned babyface this past Friday on SmackDown when she rescued Raquel Rodriguez from a 3-on-1 attack at the hands of Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai of Damage Control. However, WWE reportedly had a different creative direction for the segment prior to the show. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, Liv Morgan, the SmackDown Women's Champion, was originally listed internally to do the run-in to save Rodriguez from Bayley's heel stable until Triple H and his writers decided to go with Shotzi instead. Now, Morgan, of course, did appear on Friday's show. She interrupted Ronda Rousey's backstage interview prior to their SmackDown Women's title match at the upcoming Extreme Rules Premium Live event. The heated exchange between the two ended with Morgan challenging Rousey to an Extreme Rules match, which Rousey accepted before pronouncing the October 8 event as the end of Morgan and her reign as champion. So possibly, they decided to go in a different direction for Liv Morgan on this show, because I don't know about you, I've noticed more heelish tendencies from Liv Morgan in her presentation in recent weeks. Again, we don't know if this is just because she's feuding with Ronda. I'm not sure where the Liv Morgan character is going, honestly. I don't know if she's a tweener. I don't know if she's a heel. I don't know if she's babyface. I don't know. But certainly, if they're going to be portraying her as a heel, it would make no sense for her to come out and make the save in terms of a babyface way. And also, it makes no sense for her to get involved with Damage Control right now. They're a heel faction that's primarily based on Raw. Yes, they've got the Women's Tag Team Championships now, so they can appear on both brands. But it really makes no sense for Liv Morgan to get involved in any of that, considering she's feuding with Ronda Rousey over the SmackDown Women's Championship. So I think Triple H and his writers and everyone involved in that made the right call there. But Liv Morgan's character is a really interesting one in what's going on right now on SmackDown. Do I expect her to drop the SmackDown Women's Championship at Extreme Rules? I expect her to retain it. I feel like there is more at play here and a bigger story that they're trying to tell when it comes to Liv Morgan. And I think maybe Extreme Rules might be the time in which they actually officially pull the trigger, as it were, on her officially becoming a full-fledged heel. Or possibly could have a situation where Ronda Rousey wins the title and becomes a heel in the process. I want to see her and Shayna Baszler challenge for the Women's Tag Team Championships. So there's lots of different ways that this could go, certainly. But there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news stories. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.